Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas sirata mustaqim, siratal ladina an'amta alayhim, ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. My name is Lionel Allen Jr. On behalf of our resident Imam, Brother Imam Tariq El Amin, the Talim Committee, Dr. Gloria Bashir, and Dr. Aisha El Amin, I want to welcome you to today's Talim. We are thrilled to have with us this afternoon remarkable brother. One of the things that is most fascinating about being a part of this community is just the brilliance that we have within our brothers and sisters, and we might not always know who we are making prayer with, who we are, engaging with, but we have some really talented, brilliant people in our community, and Brother Naeem Simpkins is one of those brothers. He currently serves as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Neighborhood Housing Services, but that's just a small accomplishment on his very long and rich resume. He has a history in service, a history in civic engagement. He was the Managing Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Housing and served as judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County. He's also been the Deputy Commissioner for the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development. One of the things that I found most fascinating that I learned about Brother Naeem is that he's a board member and past president of the Muslim Bar Association of Chicago, which many of us don't know, but was the first association of Muslim lawyers organized in the United States. He's also a former board member of the Cook County Bar Association, the country's oldest association of African-American lawyers. He's a board member of the Downtown Islamic Center, the RTW Veteran Center, and a former managing editor of the Journal of Islamic Law and Culture. Last year, he was named as one of Crane's 2021 notable Black leaders and executives. So that's just a small snippet, to be honest with you, of his really rich and impressive resume. But most importantly, he's one of our brothers. He's someone that has not only served the city at large, but has been a tremendous asset to our community and has done a lot to help advance our cause and our work in the community of Masjid Al-Taqwa. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn it over to our dear brother Naeem Simpkins. Welcome, brother, and thank you for joining us. And we appreciate in advance the guidance that you're going to give us relative to the 2022, midterm elections. And so we're excited to hear your insights and for you to share some of your wisdom with us, as for some of us who have not voted yet, but even those who have, just to be more aware of what we need to be paying attention to in the upcoming months. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, brother Lionel. Assalamu alaikum, Taqwa family. It's good to be with you all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, so I was asked to provide some comments about the upcoming midterm elections. Those elections will be, election day is this coming Tuesday, November 8th. As with just about every other jurisdiction in the country, we now have the ability to do in-person early voting and also to vote by mail, which has been going on for a few weeks now. So for those of you all that have not voted yet, you can vote in person. I think the deadline to vote by mail may have expired by now. I actually didn't check that. But you can, of course, go online to the Board of Elections and check where your polling place is at to make sure that you're going to the correct polling place, and go on and cast your vote. I am presenting this with the assumption that the question of whether Muslims should vote in America is a fairly settled question, at least for this community. In my experience has been, this community has always been a very civically engaged community. And so I am presenting this on the assumption that I'm talking to a community that is civically engaged and is relatively comfortable with the idea of voting. Obviously, for a community that seeks to promote moral excellence, having a say in the people that represent us and make laws, having a say in the policies that govern us is, of course, a critical aspect of promoting moral excellence. I'm presenting this from the standpoint that as Muslims, we actually should be civically engaged in governance of our institutions and our society with an effort to promote moral excellence. So the midterm elections. So midterm elections obviously are in between the major elections. They come after the primary elections, and they're in between the major elections. This midterm election, there are seats that are up for election for the county, for the federal level, and the state level. There are no municipal, City of Chicago or other municipal elections right now on Tuesday. Those will take place in February. There are, except for the fact that there are a couple of suburban trustee seats that are open. There's three, one in LaGrange, one in Lyons, and one in South Palos Township. But other than that, there are no municipal elections. Those take place in February. So let's talk about the races that are on the ballot. So on the federal level, only one of our senatorial seats is up for election, and that is the seat that is currently held by Tammy Duckworth. Let me, as a matter of fact, I want to share my screen.
I just gave you screen sharing capabilities, brother, so you should be fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen in a minute. So we'll start at the county level next. So the only federal seat that is up right now is Senate, and that is Tammy Duckworth's seat is up for election, and obviously she's the Democrat. The other senator that we have in Illinois is Dick Durbin, and his seat is not up for election this cycle. For the county, we have a number of county seats that are open, including Cook County Board President, which is held by Tony Preckwinkle currently. The assessor, which is currently held by Fritz Kagan. You know, the assessor is the office that does all of the property assessments, and those assessments then are used to determine property taxes for both residential and commercial properties. The Cook County Clerk, currently held by Karen Yarbrough, and that is actually that's one of the seats that maintains all of the county records, including the election records. Sheriff of Cook County, which is currently held by Tom Dart. County Treasurer, which is currently held by Maria Pappas. There's also one Municipal Water Reclamation District board seat that's open. Let's see, on the county side, there are also a number of county board seats that are open. And when you go to your polling place and they give you the ballot will include the county board seats that are open for your voting precinct. All of the county board seats are open, but obviously you will only vote for the county board person that is in whose district that you're in. There's also statewide seats that are open, including the governor. And as everybody knows, because we've been inundated with advertisements, political campaign advertisements. J.B. Pritzker is the current governor, and Darren Bailey is the Republican opponent. Attorney General is up for election, and that seat is currently held by Kwame Raoul. Secretary of State is up, and as many of you know, Jesse White has decided to retire. And so that is, in fact, an open seat. There are a number of people running for that. Comptroller is open. That's basically the state's money manager for the state of Illinois, and that seat is currently held by Susanna Mendoza. Who's a good friend of mine. Michael Friedrichs is the current state treasurer. That seat is also open for election. There are also a number of statewide. For on the federal level for the House. There are a number of congressional House seats that are up for election as well. Probably for most of the people on the Talim today, that would probably be the first, second, and third districts, depending on where you live. Jonathan Jackson is the Democratic primary winner for the first district. Robin Kelly, who many of us are familiar with, is the seated candidate for the second district, and Delio Ramirez, third district candidate, very progressive candidate who is now a state house. She went from a state representative and was elected last cycle to the U.S. House of Representatives for the third district. There are also a number of Senate candidates that are up for election. So you'll see which Senate candidates and which congressional candidates and which state house candidates are up for election in your district based upon the ballot that you receive. Sean Caston is running the 6th district, which is up north and northern suburbs, but he's a very good candidate, personal friend of mine as well. Again, there are 3 trustee seats that are open in the suburbs: LaGrange, Lyons, and South Palos townships have some trustee positions open. And then, of course, there are the judges. The judges, I would suggest, are some of the most important positions that are on the ballot. They are the most likely to have a direct effect on people's lives. Judges can take your property or save your property. They can take your freedom or allow you to keep your freedom. They can take your house, or they can allow you to keep your house. They have a lot of direct impact on people's lives, and most people really don't know much about judicial candidates. But I would suggest that it is eminently worth your while to go all the way down the ballot and not skip the judicial candidates. There are more judicial candidates than any other candidates on the ballot. And let's see, I want to share my screen. And there are a number of places that you can go to find judicial information on the judicial candidates. And I don't know why. Hang on a second. Don't know why. Share my screen, proposed amendment. Here we go. So there are a number of bar associations in the state and in Cook County. And those bar associations all issue information on judicial candidates, and they also give ratings on the candidate. I used to be the co-chair of the Cook County Bar Association's Judicial Screening Committee. And so we would do investigations on all of the judges, talk to other judges, talk to lawyers that had appeared for them, look at lawyers who had litigated against them and with them when they were lawyers before they were judges, to get a good idea of stuff like their judicial temperament, their legal acumen, and stuff like that. So like I said, there are a number of bar associations. There are American Bar Association, Asian American Black Women, Chicago Council of Lawyers, Decalogue Society, which is the Jewish Bar, Cook County Bar Association, which is the Black Bar. So there are a number of them. They have all come together in what's called the Alliance of Bar Associations for Judicial Screening, and they all come together to do the investigations and the interviews to screen the candidates. All of the judges that are up for election now are what are called retention judges. That means these are judges who are currently judges now, and they are on the ballot to determine whether the voters want them to continue to be judges. So when you're looking for information on the judges, you can always look up the Alliance of Bar Associations for Judicial Screening, and you'll notice that these are generally our ethnic bars: women's bar, Puerto Rican bar, the black bar. Right now, the MBA, the Muslim Bar Association, does not participate in the judicial screening process, but the new president of the Muslim Bar Association has made it part of his platform to get them involved in the alliance and the judicial screening process. Hopefully, probably not November, but next year, hopefully the Muslim Bar Association, I will be able to share their judicial ratings as well. Also, the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition also does endorsements as well. They have not done any. There's only 2 endorsements that they did this year for retention judges. One is Bill Hooks. Bill Hooks is an African-American judge. He is past president of the Cook County Bar Association. He was a civil rights attorney for many, many years, criminal defense attorney for many, many years. Very, very progressive, pro-Black judge. Also has been for many, many years a supporter of Muslim community and of the Muslim Bar Association. So they issued a recommendation for him, and also for what is her name? There's a well, it'll come to me in a minute. There's another judge, a Hispanic judge that hears domestic relations. I'll get her name for you in a minute. They also recommended her. For the rest of the judicial candidates, because there's so many, the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition just posted the various bar association ratings, and did not issue actual endorsements for other judicial candidates just because they don't have bandwidth to do it. There's too many of them. Oh, Rosanna Fernandez. So if you see those 2 names on your ballot, William Hooks and Rosanna Fernandez, the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, and me are recommending that you vote for those candidates. Anyway, there are a large number of candidates. New share. Though I did want to highlight for you why am I not? Okay. The screen I want to share is not showing. So give me 1 second as I try to navigate. There we go. Okay, that's what I'm trying. Okay, new share. I did want to point out to everybody with respect to the judicial candidates. Can you guys see that now?
Yes. Is this a graphic of the judges that are up for retention?
This is a graphic of the African-American judges that are up for retention.
Yes. Yes, we do see.
Okay. So I did want you guys to be aware of that. So on the appellate court level, Nate House, Sophia Hall, who's been a judge for a long time, is a brilliant woman. Obviously, Timothy Evans, our current chief judge, Leroy Martin, Jr., who is the son of the past police commissioner, Leroy Martin, is the presiding judge over the criminal court system right now. So these are all the judges: Nathaniel Wilson, Bill Hooks, that's the guy I just mentioned, Anita Coleman, she's past president of the Illinois Judicial Council, which is the statewide association of Black judges. Lindsey Jones, Regina Lyle, who was also a past president of the County Bar Association, John Light, D. Renee Jackson, Daryl Jones, Leonard Murray, who's a presiding judge in housing court, and Jesse Outlaw. Oh, actually, Jesse ran against me when I was running for judge. Leonard Murray, I know all of these guys personally, except for Lindsey Jones. I've actually never met him. But these are all great judges, and so I just wanted you all, as an African American community, to be aware of the African American judges that are up for retention. That's the judges. So on the midterm ballot, there is also there are two ballot questions that are up. One is a constitutional amendment, a proposed amendment to the Illinois Constitution, and the other one is a referendum question that's being submitted to the voters. So we'll talk about the referendum question first. The referendum question is Forest Preserve District of Cook County, clean air, clean water, and wildlife habitat protection 1-year limiting rate increase. Essentially what this is asking is, as a taxing body, should the Forest Preserve District of Cook County be allowed to raise the level of their levy as a taxing district for 1 year to get some extra revenue to do some to pay for some conservation, like floodwater storage, wildlife habitat protection, air quality improvement, working on the trails, et cetera, et cetera. It's estimated that if this levy is approved, it would raise the average homeowners' real estate taxes. If you have a house that's assessed at $100,000, would raise your taxes about $8. So that's the first question that's on the ballot. You'll be asked to vote yes or no. Same thing with the retention judges. You'll ask to be vote yes to retain a judge or no not to retain each of the judges. The judges are retained if they get a majority of the votes that are cast as yes votes. If the majority of the votes that are cast in their race is a no vote, then they're not retained. But it's only the votes that are actually cast for them are counted. So if 90% of the people don't vote in a judge's race and 10% do, that judge just needs to get needs to get a majority of that 10% of folks that voted in their race. So the other thing, and some of you may have seen a number of commercials about this, this is a proposed amendment to the Illinois Constitution, specifically Article 1 of the Constitution, to create a new section of Article 1, which is the Illinois State Constitution Bill of Rights. It's called the Workers' Rights Amendment, and it says employees shall have the fundamental right to organize and to bargain collectively to representatives of their own choosing for the purpose of negotiating wages, hours, and working conditions, and to protect their economic welfare and safety at work. No law, this is really important, no law shall be passed that interferes with, negates, or diminishes the right of employees to organize and bargain collectively over their wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment and workplace safety, including any law or ordinance that prohibits the execution or application of agreements between employers and labor organizations that represent employees requiring membership in an organization as a condition of employment. So what this amendment basically says, and as far as I can tell, it would primarily, maybe even exclusively, apply to government workers. That because as you know, there are some laws exist now that certain government workers are not allowed to strike, and this constitutional amendment would basically say that there can be no laws that would override any provisions of collective bargaining agreements There would be no laws that would prohibit any class of employees from organizing into labor unions. There can be no laws that would prohibit joining a labor union as being a required condition of employment as well. I know that I'm pretty sure, well, this has overwhelming support from Democratic lawmakers across the state. The entire, as far as I know, the entire Illinois Black Caucus is in favor of this this constitutional amendment. However, I think one of the things to consider when deciding whether or not to vote for or against this amendment is the fact that it's my interpretation that there's a lot of stuff on the internet. If you look this up, a lot of business interests and stuff are saying that this is going to result in raising of taxes on folks because government employees will be able to negotiate for higher pay and other benefits that are going to cost taxpayers money, irrespective of budget and the ability to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. I think the real issue here, for me at least, is the fact that I think this would be an absolute impediment to police reform because this would give the police union contract precedent over any other laws, including laws that could be passed on the municipal, county, or state level that would change or prohibit provisions of police collective bargaining contract that are in accordance, that would interfere with or hamper police reform, including some of the stuff that the feds are requiring through the consent decree, for instance, with the City of Chicago Police Department. There are already all kinds of provisions in the police collective bargaining agreement that protect police officers that have committed acts of corruption, acts of police brutality and murder. If those provisions were negotiated to the point where they remained in the collective bargaining agreement, there would, under this Constitution, the Illinois Constitution, there would be no ability to override the provisions. So I think that this has some significant impact on the ability to pursue police reform and to pursue police accountability. That's my opinion. I haven't seen any of our politicians talk about this at all. You know, Illinois is a union state, and so every Democrat at least is going to be in favor of this. And as far as I can tell, every Democrat is. So your Democratic politicians are unanimously in favor of this constitutional amendment. I personally think that there could be some negative consequences to the passage of this amendment.
Brother Naeem, ask a quick question.
Yes, sure.
So what do we know about the person that authored the proposed amendment and sort of where their loyalties lie? You mentioned that that Democrats are going to overwhelmingly support this, which doesn't surprise me because Democrats generally support union and unionizations.
Right.
What do we know about the folks who authored this amendment, and does that give us any cause for concern as we think about whether or not to support this amendment?
This amendment was proposed and it was promoted and lobbied for by labor organizations themselves.
Got it. Thank you.
Which specific labor organizations, I don't know, but I know all of the labor organizations that I've seen as I was doing some research on this obviously are definitely in favor of this. I've seen some commercials by some of the firefighter unions. I have not seen any commercials, it's enough, by any of the police unions, or, you know, law enforcement unions, any of the law enforcement associations like the Sheriff's Association or anybody like that. I haven't seen anything for or against this by those associations. But this amendment does give me pause just because of our situation with police.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Bashir. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just
Yes.
wanted to put to Naeem that the major backer of this particular referendum is the Illinois Federation of Teachers.
Okay. Thank you. And Brother Bashir has a lot more expertise in this. So, brother, if you have any additional information or perspective on this that you share, that would be great. Especially with your own labor background, you probably know more about this than I do.
Well, just want to add quickly that the police unions and the firefighter unions are very powerful and very influential in state government as well as local and municipal governments. So, they have an inside track to whatever's going to happen. But the other part of it is there are janitorial, there are teachers, there are others, security workers, nursing home workers, and others who would benefit from this resolution, from this amendment. So, when you go into the polling place, just kind of weigh that situation between those who are pretty much guaranteed what they're going to get, like police, like the fraternal order police and firefighters, and then those other workers who don't have that kind of clout. So that's the balance you'll have to consider when you either vote for or against this resolution.
Yeah, the policemen's union, teachers union, AFSCME, those are probably the biggest unions. I assume that they're all in favor of this.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Somebody asked a question in the chat: which judges are responsible for letting carjackers out on house arrest to continue doing it? Well, that's an interesting question. So that brings up an issue that has been replete in the political commercials, the issue of crime and the issue of the bill that's of the law that's going to take effect, I think, in the beginning of the year, which is the bail reform law. Let me explain a little bit about how the bail reform law works and why it was instituted. For just about as long as our criminal justice system has been in existence in Illinois, when someone is arrested and accused of a crime, the first thing that happens is they have they're arraigned. So the arraignment hearing decides whether there's probable cause for that person to be held over for a trial. Is there at least enough indication that there may have been a crime committed and this person may have committed the crime enough to send this forward so that there would be a trial of some kind, unless there's a plea bargain. If the arraignment finds that there was no probable cause, then the person's released and it's over. If at the arraignment there's probable cause found, at that point, then there's a bail hearing. So historically in Illinois, bail has been cash bail, right? For very minor offenses, there's often what's called an I bond, which means you're released on individual recognizance. You basically sign a piece of paper saying, "I promise that I'm going to come back for it," and that's done for really minor stuff. Then there's cash bail. And those are bonds, right? There's a D bond, there's a C bond. And that's when the defendant actually has to put up money to secure their return to court. There are two reasons why someone would be denied bail. One is either that they're a flight risk, meaning that there is significant indication that the person is just not going to come back to court, they're going to flee, right? Or the judge can deny bail if they make a determination that this particular person that has been accused of a crime, that this is before anybody has actually been found guilty of anything, that person constitutes a potential danger to the community. And under the traditional cash bail system, essentially what that meant is that wealthy people, irrespective of what crime they committed, unless bail was denied to them completely, were able to post bail and get out of prison. And very poor people who could not post bail sat in jail until their case came to trial or was otherwise resolved. It has nothing to do with letting criminals out. There are other alternatives to cash bail, as somebody mentioned in the question. There's electronic monitoring is one of the alternatives to bail. There, cash bail. There are some others. Under the revised system, and actually this has been instituted already in Cook County, a judge has to make a very specific finding with respect to a number of factors when a defendant is that's been accused of a crime is brought before them, whether or not to apply cash bail or not to apply cash bail. If they apply cash bail, what level? If they don't apply cash bail, what conditions of release they are going to impose. One of the most common conditions is electronic monitoring. There is checking in with officers on a periodic basis, and the general stuff. You can't carry a gun. You can't commit another crime. So, I mean, the issue about bail reform is not whether or not criminals are going to get out of jail or not get out of jail. It's really about whether poor people are going to have to stay in jail and people that are not poor are going to get out, irrespective of the crime that was committed. That's what bail reform is about. And as we all know, when it comes to people that are held over and have to languish in jail until their case is heard, whether they are found guilty or innocent, it's Black people for the most part, and also Hispanics and poor white people. But the vast majority of inmates in county jail who are there awaiting trial, sometimes for a year or 2 years or even 3 years, sitting in jail, is Black folks that just cannot afford to raise the bail money. So that's what bail reform is about. That was passed by state legislature. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Naeem, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for coming on and giving your insights into this election situation. I know I was thinking, just as you were going over the many areas that we have to consider in voting. It's a lot of, the judges sometimes we're not aware of. I go looking for a Black name on the ballot to vote for. But that may be an area too that we as citizens and African American citizens, I don't know if this has been discussed, but a change in that electoral process of not having to deal with so many of those issues in one voting platform. But one other thing that came to my mind too, Naeem, as you were the information you were giving, you mentioned about those organizations, attorney organizations that give assessments on candidates, and you mentioned that this one African American association did not give any, and that kind of bothered me. I don't know if I heard that correct, but I would think that we would need people in that kind of position that would give us African Americans some insights. And one other thing too about the bond issue, that came up. I think that came up due to Attorney General Fox, and they changed that process of giving bonds. I was in the court of Judge Cousins some time ago, and he was giving bond, but he explained the reason why he takes that consideration of giving a bond very seriously, and the injustices that have happened to African American people in that bond process, and being able to give a bond that a person could be able to grab, not only are their means, but whatever they're being charged for. This kind of conversation that we're having today with this issue is much needed. Imam Wardi Muhammad pointed out that we need intelligentsia in our community, and I can't remember the other African American leader that also pointed this out, because all of us are not privy to this. Even today, I remember when I came up in school, you had to pass to get out of high school.
Constitution test, right? Yeah. Are you still there? Are you still there?
Yeah, they had muted me. Okay. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things, as you mentioned, so I put back up on the screen the bar associations that participate in the judicial screening process and issue ratings, and they all have websites that you can go to. The Black bar associations are the Cook County Bar Association, which is the oldest association of Black lawyers in the country. And also the Black Women Lawyers Association of Greater Chicago, BWLA. Those are the two Black bar associations. The association I was saying was not participating yet is the Muslim Bar Association. And I am hoping, I've been lobbying for years for the Muslim Bar Association to get involved in the judicial screening process. And I'm hoping by next year with the new leadership there, they will get involved. It's really just a matter of being able to rally enough people that are members of your bar association to do it. It's a lot of work. All of those judges that you saw, and there are many, many more, have to be evaluated. You need people that do the background investigations. You need people that do the interviews. Each of the judges is interviewed, lest they decide not to seek recommendations from the bar associations. There's always one or two that do that. I think Maria Barlow this round was not evaluated by any of the bar associations. She's in the first sub-circuit, actually. There are associations representing the African American community and African American lawyers, two of them that actually do these associations. And also the Chicago Council of Lawyers has been around a long time, has a long history as a association of very progressive left-wing lawyers, if you will. Stan Willis, members of the Black Panthers, and that kind of stuff. Those are the lawyers that tend to be members of the Chicago Council of Lawyers as well. And so that's someplace you can also look to if you're trying to get more progressive and revolutionary perspective on the folks that are looking for your vote to be a judge. The Chicago Council. So the Black Women Lawyers Association, Chicago Council of Lawyers, and the Cook County Bar Association are good sources of looking to see how judges are rated. And then they rate folks as recommended or not recommended. Highly recommended means they think somebody is incredibly qualified, or it depends on the bar association. Well qualified, qualified, highly qualified, or not qualified. And then some will get an NR, which means they were not rated. And that means that the bar associations did not rate the candidate. Yeah, there it is. Maria Barlow is the candidate that was not rated by any bar association. And yeah, there's a couple. Yes.
I'm sorry to cut you off, brother. Go ahead if you.
No, I'm done.
So you mentioned that we should be paying attention to the judges that are seeking retention. Because they have an impact on our lives, a direct impact on our lives. Are there other offices that we really need to key in on, because they do affect the day-to-day lived experiences, particularly of African American and Latino people? Are there other offices that we really need to be paying attention to, or trying to figure out more about the candidates who are running for these offices because they have an impact on our daily lives?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. Necessary. I mean, you know, it just sort of depends on the issue. I mean, obviously the state's attorney is very, very important. The mayor is very, very important. Aldermen can be important. Aldermen are more likely to sort of have an impact on sort of just day-to-day stuff, you know, your street lights and your garbage removal and fixing your streets and, you know, stuff like that, right? That's what aldermen do, right? 90% of an alderman's job is constituent services, making you aware of resources that are available to you through government programs. That's what aldermen do. So they're kind of down closer to our level, sort of day-to-day activities. Obviously, the mayor's office is incredibly important. Governor's office is incredibly important. You know, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think Illinois, as a matter of fact, is the state that has more elected public offices than any other state in the country. I mean, and that's getting down to, you know, school boards and trustees for townships and blah, blah, blah. But if you add them all up together, I think Illinois has more elected public offices than any other state in the country. So it can be daunting. And the midterm ballot is smaller than the general election ballot that comes along in February. It's going to be a much longer ballot. I would just suggest that don't wait till election time. You know, if you got a Sunday where you're just kind of chilling, or you know, you've got some time after work and you're tired of, you know, sort of watching the same streaming channels all the time, get online and start doing some research. You know, see who the county clerk is, or see who your county board rep is, your commissioner is, see whose district you are in the state house, and start doing some research. Take a look at their website, you know, look up some news stories about them, start to get an idea of who these people are throughout the year, so that you don't have to try and, you know, cram in hours and hours of investigating over, you know, candidates and offices and stuff like that, you know, in some short period of time, because people don't do it, right?
Yeah.
You don't know who these judges are, right? And I mean, a lot of people don't know. So, for instance, the judge that what was the officer's name that killed the young lady because he shot into a crowd as he drove by, and killed the young African American lady, and he was charged with murder, and the judge dismissed his case. There was a white female judge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she was reelected as a retention judge. This judge, there was one judge last year, I think, that there was a successful campaign not to retain him. It's the first time that something like that has happened in probably 20 years. He was a white judge that was legendary for siding with police and prosecutors and giving much harsher punishments to Black defendants that were either convicted or pled to crimes. What was his name? His name was, I can't remember his name. Coughlin. It was Coughlin, Judge Coughlin.
Was it Callahan, I believe?
No, I think it was Coughlin. I think. I'm not sure. But they successfully got him non-retained. They actually had a list of like 6 judges that were just the worst judges for Black and brown folks. And that was the only one they were able to successfully get off the bench, because most people simply don't pay attention to the judges. And the ones that bother to vote for judges usually just go down the line and, oh, yeah, and they keep moving.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Listen, I got a quick question for you. You know, I got
Yes.
a nephew that was wrongly accused, and you know, he spent like practically 12 years in prison, and they finally let him out. So, you know, but he got an ankle bracelet on, and like he's been had his ankle bracelet on for a minute. So every time I see him, you know, I mean, tears come in my eyes. I'm like, man, how you could? Why are they doing this to you? You wrongly accused, spent 12 years in prison, and you know, he still got this ankle bracelet on, and all this fantastic stuff, man. Now, what we want to do and what we want to know is what is it that we can do about getting all this stuff taken care of? He said he got a lawyer supposed to represent him, but man, they're not working fast enough, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, he's been into this too long, and they've been just dragging their feet on and on and on. And you know anything or anybody I might be able to talk to about this?
Not really. I mean, criminal law, number one, is not my area of expertise. When it comes to seeking exoneration, reopening past criminal cases to try and, you know, get a new trial, that sort of thing. It sounds like this is actually even post, not only post conviction, but post, he's basically served out whatever the sentence he was given. I don't know whether he pled or whether he was found guilty at a bench or a jury trial.
All of that is up in the air too. All that stuff has been wrongly, and he was been kept. Like I say, they just banked him off in the prison, and then, you know, I mean, man, it's been ridiculous how they did, and then come to find out all of the stuff they say he did not do, and they didn't want to admit it as evidence into the courtroom. Okay, I mean, back then. It wasn't no evidence that, you know, back then it was a lie told, and they went on that lie, and they had him do whatever they had to do back then when he was still a young guy. But unfortunately, he's like I say, he's banked off now, where he got to keep going through the process of being on this ankle bracelet and, you know, and all that messed up stuff. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he's got a lawyer that's representing him, that's
one of the key elements in there.
That's what he needs to do. He needs to get a lawyer that can represent him, that is going to know the specifics of his case. I don't know if this is pre or post conviction. I mean, obviously, if there was evidence that wasn't presented at trial, there's rules about the prosecution has to provide any exculpatory evidence to the defense. Sometimes defense lawyers make decisions not to pursue evidence or present evidence. So I don't know, right? Every case is very, very particular. So he needs a lawyer that's working directly with him, specifically on his case. Yeah,
exactly. I appreciate that input. Shukran jazilan. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Dr. Lionel, can I make a comment regarding your question on what offices we should pay close attention to because they have this kind of direct impact on our lives?
Yes, and please do this. Yes, and now this will have to be the final comment as we're coming up on 2 o'clock. But yes, Brother Rob, please jump in.
Also, the excellent advice that Brother Naeem gave regarding investigating these people for political offices on a regular basis and not just at election time. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to make the comment that all of these offices are important, because at some point, some of these people who are running for library boards, school boards, and other smaller offices end up in Congress or for U.S. Senate or some other office that is going to impact our lives at some point, perhaps down the line, which is what's happening now nationally. We got all of these crazy people coming out of nowhere, but they started somewhere on school boards and other quote unquote smaller offices. So all of them are important, I would suggest.
All right. Can I just make a comment on that, please, Brother Lionel? Because this is really, really important. And it's an interesting contrast between the two major parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, sort of nationally. The Republican Party for probably the last 20 years has had a very specific strategy, in fact, of going after the lowest level offices, school boards and park districts and trustees and water reclamation and these very, very small offices and putting in getting their Republican folks on those offices, and then those people then begin to move up the ladder. They focus on the next level of offices and the next and the next and the next. And that's why we've seen, you know, all of these state legislatures around the country all seem to have these, except for places like Illinois and stuff that are just these Democratic bastions. But other than that, most of these states seem to have these Republican state legislatures, and that's because of that strategy, right?
Yeah.
So what Rob is talking about is very true. So your local elections, those elections that are sort of the lowest rung of the political ladder, those are incredibly important.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. It sounds like the Republicans were playing chess and the Democrats were playing checkers.
You got it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Well, I want to thank you, Brother Naeem, for your insights this afternoon. I mean, we can have this conversation for another 3 hours and still not touch everything that needs to be touched. I want to thank all of you all who joined us, in community this afternoon to hear this important information. Please share it with those who were not here. We encourage you to continue to come back to Talim to get some of this knowledge and wisdom from the members of our community who are really doing so much outside of our sort of insulated community and just touching lives across the city of Chicago, across the state of Illinois, and nationally. So we want to thank all of you for your participation today. We're going to close out with Walasa. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Walasa. Inna linsana lafi kusra. Ila ladina amanu wa amilu salihati. Watwasa bil haq. Watwasa bis sabr. Ameen.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, brother.